Okay, so we had the privilege, is this? Yeah, yeah. Of heading over to Vanuatu in July. And we were there for 13 days. And this is just a collection of some of our pictures. This is us leaving Australia. Red button points. Okay. So as you see, we were full of enthusiasm. Shane went. He's not here tonight, but that picture's there to show that he was there. Pastors in prayer. And this was us support beforehand. They had not just had a huge fight. But we were very excited to see what was in store for us when we arrived. When that's doing that there we go. Okay. All right. So we flew there. When we got there, we were greeted by Tim in his pickup truck, and I remember saying, "We're not going to fit everything on that. Is there another truck?" And that was silly because not only did we fit everything comfortably, but we packed on a lot more for a lot longer trips while we were there. So basically, there is no such thing as not enough room. And your first time on the back of a truck is quite exhilarating. So pulled the Superman pose. This is who we worked with, obviously, Tim and Ono, who we know well. Really knew what he was doing there, placing them together and their ministry in Vanuatu. Tim is able to reach out to people that other white missionaries wouldn't necessarily be able to because of who he is married to. It gives them an access point that other missionaries just don't have. And Tim is a Vanuatu native on the inside. He just has white skin. So this is them at Camp Shine. Ono cooked and cleaned and got all the meals ready for us, and we really were very spoiled as far as what we ate compared to what we could have eaten. Espiritu Santo is the island where we were. Luganville was our base, where Camp Shining Light is based, and that sort of was our rest place before we'd launch out to Ipiato, which is, I don't know where it is, it's down here somewhere. Yeah, we went to Ipiato for a while, which is Ono's village. And then we went back to Camp Shining Light for a little while before heading up to Big Bay, which is somewhere up in here. That's the Big Bay, but we were like here. There's no water or anything. It's very deceptive. So that's where we were, and that's the things that we were told we would be doing while we were there. Now it's someone else's turn.
David might have to help me with this thing. But David, so this is showing Camp Shining Light inside the dorm rooms. That's the boys' room. Pretty tidy, isn't it? It's not too bad. I think that was when we just arrived, because it did get worse than that. David's stuff was scattered everywhere. No, it wasn't. David was pretty clean. David was pretty clean. You can also see that other photo there. What's the pointer, Dave? The red? The red one there. So that photo there is actually the view out of the Panero's house. They're right on the beach there. They've got their own private little beach, so it's pretty good. And then this is the dining room. That's where we ate. And then that first photo that you saw of Tim and Ono, they were standing just there. So you can sort of see where we had our meals when we were at Camp Shining Light. And then that photo is just the grounds. We had a little bit of time to kick the soccer ball around and have a bit of free time while we were there, just sort of a couple of afternoons. So that's Camp Shining Light.
On the Tuesday, we headed out to Ipiato, which is Ono's village, and once again, we managed to fit a lot more stuff on the back of the ute than what we would have expected. And on our way out, we stopped at one of the rivers and had a bit of a cool-off, which was fun, and we all got quite sunburnt on the way out, which was quite interesting. And when we're in Ipiato, this is where we're staying, and that there's the kitchen where Ono was doing all the cooking for us over an open fireplace, and which was interesting to watch. And this is the church here, and with the school grounds as well. And I know for me, Ipiato was a good experience, just being able to see village life and for what it was really like, and seeing how the people over there truly live and what it's really like. And I know the people over there, just seeing them smile and just the joy on their faces was really special. It was really good. I loved it. Yeah. The mosquito net. The tents were there as our mosquito nets. So it's just a lot easier than trying to set up mosquito nets everywhere. It's just easier just to set up the tents and cream into the tents and.
So at Ipiato, there were a couple of different things we were involved in. When we were there, it was actually, was it 4th of July? It was like the Independence Day celebration. So we were expecting that there'd be a lot of people out and about. I think the next picture is actually before, oh no, sorry. It was on this day. We were planning to go out and do all of this stuff with them, but it was raining all day and not many people turned up at all. And so we were sitting under a tarp just in the rain and kind of waiting for things to happen for a while. So, but those things happen, we heard all about island time and things never happen quite as you expected, and you've got to be prepared for that and just kind of go with the flow, otherwise you get really agitated. So one of the things we did for the kids, and just in trying to connect with them, there was a great sense where because of the communication barriers, it was hard to make those connections, but this was really good. They had the idea to do face painting with the kids. So there are a couple of shelters where we set up. There were 2 groups of us, and we just drew some little pictures on a piece of paper, and the kids would come in and they'd point to a picture and point to a body part. And after a couple of hours, these kids were like covered from, like, we drew all over their hair, like they were pointing in there, we just drew all over their head, like on their legs, on their feet, on their arms, on their stomachs, like every possible part was covered, and they'd still come back. So that was a lot of fun. That was a nice way just to be able to communicate with them in a sense, and just to show them that we were there to serve them and to do something special for them. Ooh. I think the next one. Oh, sorry, I missed. Yeah, sorry, I missed Yeah, sorry, I missed this one. So this is us. that was what Luke got done up as. It's a shark, if you can't tell. So that's during the time we were kind of sitting under the tarp waiting. You can see here, it was raining here, and there was supposed to be this massive speech and celebration. There was just this little dedicated group of people that came out. But we had fun in the meantime anyway, as you can see.
Right. So after we went out face painting all the people, we then decided to go look at Tim's property, the one that he's going to be building his house up on Ipiato. The next day we started helping him clean up the property, so cutting down trees, picking up branches, moving coconuts, all those type of things. So that one there is just us getting ready to go up, so putting all the tools on, everything like that. Here we're just setting a line so we can dig a small trench to bury the pipe. Here we are preparing to dig the trench. So here we have breaking up all branches, logs, things like that that have fallen down. we had a break because we wanted a break, so we had a break. We got the trench dug all in that small little trench there, dug all in one day. Doesn't seem like a lot of work, but it is. After we had done that in the morning, we went back and had a little bit of lunch and a little bit of another break. Then we broke up into two groups. Most of the men went back to Tim's property and started setting up for the system that he was having built. I went with the girls and started handing out tracts while they went back to drawing. No, we weren't teaching the kids that it's right to draw on themselves or it's okay to tattoo, but it was a good way to get to know the locals. So the language there is somewhat similar to English. So sometimes you can say a word and they'll understand it. Other times you'll say something and they'll just look at you blankly. It's very one of those interesting things.
So these are just some more photos of some work that's getting done. As David called it, assisted or a septic tank there. What it looked like when we got there, you can sort of see it's all caved in a bit. Then I had to get in there with a shovel and clean it up. And then we put a concrete slab in the bottom of it, basically. And then we started bricking it up. This guy here, his name is John Pierre. While we were there, Tim was sort of talking to him about building his house for him. So I think that's what's going to happen, is John Pierre's going to build the house on that site. So we were, just getting the septic tank all set up so that they've got somewhere for all their waste to go. And we got that not totally finished, but we got it bricked up to sort of the top. So they've just got to pour like a concrete slab on the top of it. So it's pretty much finished. And then as Dave was saying, the trench that you saw in the last photo ran down sort of alongside that one, and it was for for their water pipe. And then this trench here is the footing for the house, one of the footings. That's all the boys out there getting stuck into it with shovels and pickaxes. And yes, Nathan. The last three photos there, they are not staged. Pastor worked very hard. It's a bit unclear, but David's idea with this was, yes, he was warming up. So he's got a little rock there or a little brick, and then, oh, whoops, he broke one. Did you need that, guys? And then, he's in the trench digging away. So now Pastor got stuck into it as well. We all got dirty and hot and sweaty, and then we went home and had a cold shower because there's no hot water. So that was, you go to Vanuatu and you expect what? You think of Vanuatu as being hot and sort of beaches, and we got there and it was raining most of the time, probably at 50% of the time, would you guys say? 50% of the time it was raining and it was cold. I didn't take my jumper to Ipiato, and I wish I had. We were told to pack light, and I tried to pack light, and I left my jumper behind, and I regretted that decision. But look, we still had a good time there. We got a bit of work done in preparation for Tim and Onno's house. Now, what have we
got? Tim was really good to us to, after we had 2 days of pretty hard work. We got a lot done. He sort of rewarded us with, if you do this for me, I'll take you to a waterfall. So that was as good as incentive as any. And this waterfall, the photos don't do it justice. It really is quite magnificent, and it's a lot steeper and taller and cooler than what it looks. It was really nice. We were totally higher than that. So it's just the perspective. Well, we're all getting used to the very cold water. Tim climbed up to a certain point and jumped off and said, feel free to sort of scale the sides and jump off. So, and it's so much steeper than that, and it's hardcore. Anyway, so I scrambled around and the water's rushing down, and I got to a point when I thought, well, this is a lame place to jump from. I didn't climb all the way up here to jump from here. So I climbed further and had to say a few prayers along the way because it was quite scary. But I got to a point and thought, yeah, this is probably where Tim jumped from. This is pretty high. I'll jump from here. And I turned and I sort of saw people waving their arms and stuff. So I thought I better wait. And then sort of Tim frantically climb up, and as soon as it got within earshot of the water, I said, "Don't jump, you crazy. No one jumps from up here." It says further down. So, but I mean, the good part came from that was that he said, well, we're up this high, we might as well keep going. So we climbed all the way to the top, which was totally all the way up here. And there was this little whirlpool thing that you sat in, and that was nice. And it was really cool just enjoying God's creation, the natural things that they've got. They don't have expensive, toys and gadgets, but they've got things like this in their backyard, and we take what we've got for granted, but this is pretty special. Am I still talking? Yeah. Okay, so this was the church service at Ipiato, where we've been for the last couple of days. David will give his testimony shortly, because David preached. I was about to say, even though it's not a very nice building, they still worship God with all their hearts. But, whatever. No, it's a lovely, bright blue building in a camouflaged environment. But that service was really nice. Well, that's embarrassing. David preached through Tim as interpreter, did a great job. This was us playing some games with the kids. But this service here, this was absolutely fantastic. They're on island time, as we mentioned a couple of times. So when church starts approximately at a certain time, they'll get together and they'll sing the people in. They'll sing for about half an hour until enough people show up to actually start church. And they've got their little kids choir, and they just stand there and they sing, I don't know how many songs we listen to, maybe 20, 25 songs. And they never run out of songs. And the way they sing was like, being very serious here, it was absolutely beautiful, and, nearly brought a tear to my eye, because I've never heard children sing like that. They can just harmonise with each other. It was beautiful. And I think Emma Perry was able to film some of it. I haven't seen the footage yet, but probably didn't do it justice. But David's now going to come and give his testimony of the overall impressions.
I pulled the short straw to go first. So, go back. So, overall, it was a good trip to Vanuatu. Very interesting trying to do a message through an interpreter. You'd say something, and then he would say something, and then you would have to wait for him to finish. Many times I would say something, and I'd be listening, and I could understand a little bit of what he was saying. But you have to pick your words carefully when you're preaching through an interpreter, because they have to then figure out what's the closest, most relevant word. So it made it very interesting, to say the least. They have a very high pulpit, but it drops off very suddenly. So, and it doesn't come up to about here. It only comes up to about here. So your books are much further down. So it makes it very interesting at Ipiato. Overall, it was very fun, apart from me getting sick, which always puts a bit of a downer on the trip. But yeah, I had lots of fun helping out. Managed to stay mostly clean during the building of Tim's, or the digging of the trenches. I managed to go with a nice clean shirt there and leave with a nice clean shirt. I have proof, I have pictures. So, but yes, we all worked very hard, and I don't think I'm called to be a missionary though. But it is a lot of fun going overseas. It is a lot of fun meeting the locals, especially those you could actually understand, and you could have a very good conversations with them, and you do find out a lot about people over there. And you think we were blessed with everything we have, but the way they live, they live a very blessed life in the fact that they can be happy no matter what. nowadays we have so much and yet we still find reason to complain. They have so little, but yet they're always smiling. You meet them, they shake your hand and then they smile back at you. Of course, it's probably because they were laughing at us because we were white. But hey, but yes, it was very fun.
After leaving Big Bay, we returned to Camp Shining Light and stayed there the night. And the next day, we went up to Big Bay, and this is the Bible school complex where Pastor Gabby and Smiley and their 4 kids live. And while we were there, Pastor Davies was lecturing at the Bible College, and most of us students went on a few hikes. Emma Perry and I remained back at the Bible school for most of the hikes because of ankle problems. But so it was good to be able to sort of see what happens at the Bible school, and this is just a view of what the Bible school is like and the students there and what the work is like. And it was just, it's really good to be able to see the ministry that Pastor Gabby has up there in Big Bay and the influence that he's having on the natives up there.
Yeah, so I'll just say a little bit more about hiking out to the villages. The first day we went to 2 villages, so we went to one in the morning, and then we came back. Well, we had lunch there basically, and then we came back and had another lunch, and then we went on another hike. So we had 2 lunches that day, but we were very well fed while we were there. So we hiked out to the village, hiked straight down, straight up. It didn't take that long. It was only sort of half an hour, 40-minute hike, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it was literally straight down and straight back up. And we had basically a church service there. So we had singing. There was Pastor Gabby came with us, and also another guy, Ishmael. And Ishmael interpreted and he played the guitar as well. So we basically had a few songs, just like we do here as a church service, and had a message, and then they fed us a meal. So and at that first village, I preached in that message. I preached a message at that village. So as David was saying, it is a bit different preaching through an interpreter. I remember the first time I ever gave an official message was through an interpreter. And it was in Vanuatu. So I halfway knew what to expect. The last time was through Pastor Philip, and Pastor Davies likes telling about Pastor Philip. He just makes it up anyway. So he doesn't care what you say. He just preaches what he wants anyway. So I'm sure that's what he did when I did it last time. But it is different. You sort of don't have as long to preach because you obviously have to cut it in half because the whole time it doubles. So we were at that village. Then we went to another village in the afternoon. And we didn't get back till it was quite late at night, and that was a bit of an interesting experience as well. We hiked, Tim drove us down to sort of the bottom, and then we hiked up. And then when we were coming back from that village, we were walking down the trail, and they were coming to get us, but they weren't meeting us at the same spot. And they had a bit of difficulty getting there. So Pastor was very worried. He was worried that he had lost all of his college students out in the middle of nowhere, but he was the one that was lost, not us. We had a pretty good guide. We had Pastor Gabby, so he knows his way around, but Pastor had Tim. That would have been interesting. So they were driving through this bush. They ended up at tennis courts and at villages and asking people, this is in the dark, mind you, and they were driving through bush that had never been driven through. They were making their own trail, but we did meet up eventually, and they showed up. They reckon they pulled up, turned off their headlights, and we came down the hill, and there we were. So it was the Lord had his hand in that, I'm sure, the timing and everything with that. So just some of our experiences. We also, on the next day, went to another village, and that hike was probably a good 2 hours, 2-hour hike one way. So we hiked out across a ridge, and Literally, you were standing, and that was the trail. This one step, that was the trail. It was pretty much straight down that side and straight down that side, going across this ridge. That was a pretty good experience. I quite enjoyed it. Some of the others not so much. They were like, "What happens if we fall down?" Oh, you just slip down a little ways. That'll be all right. You'll hit a tree eventually. But that was a good experience. We went down to this village, and as I said before, it was raining most of the time that we were there. The good thing was this day, it was sunny in the morning, and I was like, that's really good, because I was doing my message from Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and it talks about the sun. And I was like, how am I going to talk about the sun if the sun hasn't been out for 3 or 4 days? So the Lord let the sun come out that morning, and I was able to preach the message. On the way there, Pastor Gabby was asking me, so Andy, what are you preaching on? He sort of wanted a bit of a heads up, because he was interpreting for me. And I sort of told him, and he goes, oh, just keep it small, and that's in Bishlama, and that means keep it short. And all of you know that I don't know how to keep things short. Anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to give this a go. So I said, well, how long? He goes, oh, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I kept it small. I sat down, and Pastor Gabby went on for another half an hour, I reckon. He afterwards, he goes, did you see the people? Did you see them? They're all like, yeah, they were shaking their heads. I said, yes, I did. Small. And he goes, yeah, they loved it. I'm like, I'll never do small again. He thought that was pretty good, and he took it. But it was a good opportunity, because afterwards he was able to speak to some of the younger fellas. It's a Catholic village. They're trying to do a bit of outreach there. And he pulled a couple of the young fellas aside and was able to speak to them. He said they're quite lazy. They don't like reading their Bibles. They don't like studying. And he challenged them, you guys need to read your Bible and make sure that what the priest is saying is the right thing, and challenge them. So he was able to have a bit of a chance to speak to him. So that was quite good. I'll stop there. Otherwise, I'll keep going and steal everyone's time. But that's just a bit of my testimony, some of the experiences. Oh, just one more thing. I've got to say this. I don't even think I said this to Luke and Emma. I can't remember. So we also got a meal at that village. We're sitting there. I was on one side of their city hall, where they have all their meetings and gatherings. And I was sitting on one side. Emma and Luke are on the other side. And they're sort of giving speeches and stuff, and our lunch is being cooked over in the kitchen. Now, I'm sitting there, and this cow goes into the kitchen. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, Pastor Gabby's son was there with us. What's his name? Zach. And he saw this cow go in there. Now, for a Nevan to get up and run towards the kitchen because there's a cow in there's something not quite right. They don't move quickly. So for Zach to run over there, and he chucked a rock at this cow. Whack! And the cow takes off. So I didn't tell you guys. You knew? I did tell you. Okay. So there was a cow in the kitchen with our food. We ate it. Some of us got sick. I didn't get sick, so he didn't lick my bit.
Oh, is that the same? Oh. Okay, that's right. Okay. Sorry, this is a bit slow on. There we go. So if you can see there, this is one of the meals we had at a village. This is actually a chicken foot that Luke pulled out, the jackpot from the stew here. It didn't actually make it onto his bowl. He just... but yeah, it was a bit of I think Andy expressed concern and just gratitude that for some of the meals we got cooked up, because at the start we were told, don't worry, wherever you go, you'll have, one of the missionaries, Tim or someone, who will tell you, okay, this is safe to eat and this isn't. But some of the villages we went out to, and they weren't with us. And like this one that Andy just told us about, we got there and they'd made this big meal and they told us, we only make this for really special people and it takes such a long time to make. So we couldn't really reject it. So praise the Lord, we didn't get really badly sick from those meals. But so this is just kind of what it looks like when we got to a village. This is where Andy spoke. So there'd be a room where people would just congregate. They'd just come out. This was the smallest meeting we had. This is the whole congregation, us, and then a couple of people here. But that's okay. Most of them were well attended. Amongst the different ministries we had, one of them was to the children. I was a bit ashamed. I think they just included this picture. I don't know what happens. We took all the team photos, and all of the leaders are around with their arms around. And I come out with this one. I was not that disconnected. I didn't feel from the people. I didn't have anything wrong with them. They're just it's just a really awkward picture. So. So this is one of the kids clubs we went to. Their kids clubs are quite big. This is probably, I guess, typical size of what we went to. From the schools after school, they came out, and Luke ran the games, and they just do kind of similar to what we do. They have like a verse that they memorize, and they have a story time and the games time. So that was fun. They really enjoy that and get into that. Yeah, and they're just really happy. It's nice to spend time with the kids. This was again just the same thing. Another place we went to, Bethany gave the message, and after school, and the kids just come out and do that. I guess just for me, reflecting on the whole trip, it definitely for myself it was more observational. It was sometimes restricted. I guess you go over there wanting to be like, yeah, I really want to get in and be able to do things. But I guess we could all testify that there was that barrier. You couldn't, after we spoke a message and we went to a place, you couldn't sit down and find out about people. You were kind of restricted to your ministry in that sense. And I guess it's a very slow country as well. Like here, time is money and everything is done quickly and one thing to the next, but there, it's not like that at all. And so there was a lot of time of just taking in the culture, as Tim called it, which was pretty much just, I guess, enjoying our time there and sitting back and just appreciating the people and appreciating their lifestyle. I think for me, maybe, if anything, the biggest work the Lord did was just in showing me, when you get together and you live closely with people you just realize the, the sinfulness of yourself and what God needs to do in your own heart in that respect. So it's good, and it's a good place to learn self-denial, just to do things that are done so comfortably and so easily here takes more self-denial there. So it was really wonderful time. Now this is Luke. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this was one of the youth groups that we attended back at Luganville. So where we stayed at Camp Shining Light. This is the church that I believe it's Jeremy's church most of the time, but Tim assists where he can. This one, I was personally very blessed to be a part of this one because I just saw God's hand in it. While Andy is rejoicing in the fact that no one got sick, he's clearly forgetting the fact that two of us did get quite sick. And I was one of them. And this day in particular, where I was supposed to be speaking and running the games, I went down with a very bad stomach bug. And it was a very miserable 24 hours, but I was able to see the Lord's hand in that. It did alleviate. I was passed out on Jeremy and Liz's couch, and they came in and woke me up, and they said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "Well, I've been awake for 3 seconds. So I feel great." They said, "Okay, we're going now. Can you preach?" And I was, "Oh, okay." So I went there, and by God's grace, it was fine. And then we finished and went back to camp, and I was not fine. But it was a blessing to see how there was a window of opportunity there to minister, which is really what we were there for. So to miss out on an opportunity to get experience preaching to another culture, communicating with another culture, it wasn't something I wanted to miss out on, and I'm very thankful that we were able to have it. I've been listed to here to give my testimony of the trip. A couple of things that really stood out to me. The first one is, amusing to me and Andy. We had a giggle about it. That it's a culture that there are certain gaps where you think, well, this doesn't add up. And we're in that village that we're at with the cow in the kitchen, where we're sitting on this floor with this very low bench, and it had been pouring rain, and we were filthy from this long hike, and there was no water to drink, and this meeting hall has got holes in it, and there are children running around without any clothes on, and there's flea-ridden dogs and cows in the kitchen, and it's third world, but they're very ceremonious. They love speeches, and they had a master of ceremonies there who had his slip of paper, and he stood up and said, "This person will now give a speech," and someone got up and waxed eloquently for 10 minutes about something. We don't know. They didn't translate it for us. So he finished, and then the next person got up, and I'm having a giggle about that. How you live like this, but you're so on tradition, which I suppose there's an application there that it's not externalism, it's what's in your heart. But a couple of things that really did stand out to me on a spiritual level that I really was blessed with. We were out of our comfort zone. We were, and as some of the others have touched on, so I won't touch on it so much that way. We lived in each other's pockets for 13 days. You realise it's a great mirror to show what you're really like and where your shortfalls are, and also the fact that where we come from, we have so much that we take for granted, which they don't have, and they seem happier than us. What's that about? Which some of the others have talked about. But a couple of things that really stood out to me. I mentioned the singing at Ipiato was absolutely beautiful. There was something at Ipiato as well, which found a bit strange. We didn't expect it, anticipate it, but Tim said you were going to see some albinos. Oh, what's that? He said, well, we have some Nevans, which is the local Vanuatuans, who they're born with a skin disorder, and they're as native as can be, but they have white skin, like milky white skin, and they don't live long because they develop skin cancers all over their bodies, and they die a painful cancerous death at some point. And without trying to be coarse or crude, they do look strange. They look strange, and it's easy to get a bit of a perception about them because they're, I think they're probably in pain, or there's one in particular, his eye was swelling shut, and they don't look like normal people. And I guess I assume that they were perhaps slow in the head as well. It was probably a wrong attitude to have. Anyway, we're at this meeting at Ipiato at Ono's village, and I came in and I sat down next to one of their one of the albinos, and you can't talk to them because you don't speak the language. But I smiled and shook his hand, and he was quite shy, and he sort of was like that. And one of his eyes, that's the one I was talking about, his eye was swelling shut, and he didn't look comfortable. And I sort of think, well, what has this person got going for them? Anyway, we started singing, and this fella opened his mouth, and no word of a lie, it was one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard come out of his mouth. And I was just like, making eyebrows at people like, listen to this guy. I couldn't believe it. I had to keep checking, is it him? And it was him. And it was a rebuke to me that just don't judge a book by its cover. This is someone who, is physically unattractive, but God has still gifted them in a way. And I was really humbled, and he had no idea because I couldn't tell him that. And I wanted to give him something and he was really interested in my watch. So I gave him my watch, which the only thing I regret about is that we found out after that no one else had a working watch. So we never knew what the time was after that. So we really fit into their time really well. The other thing that struck me didn't directly involve me, but we're at Big Bay somewhere, and we'd been brought back from a village, and we got word that one of the local villages, a young lady had given birth to a child, and the child was fine, but this girl was bleeding out, and they couldn't stop the bleeding. And so they'd managed, and this is out in the middle of the jungle, so I'm not sure how they got her to hospital. I can't remember that part of the story, but they somehow got her there. Okay. All right. But it's not great, medical, third world country. And so you'd have to assume the chances of survival are not great. Anyway, what happened was that someone of these fellas got in Tim's ear and said, "This is what's happened, can you help?" So Pastor and Tim offered to drive some people down to where this girl was so they could give blood. And that night, that was a pitch black. It was pouring out. I wasn't there, but we heard it was a terrible storm that night. But they'd stopped the truck and just, they ended up, it was like, you know, the Mexicans in the car kind of thing. As more and more people kept piling in, they'd stop and more would pile in. And these are just people, village people who they're going, they don't get off their rear ends for anything, but they were getting up to go down and give blood. They don't even know if they got the right blood type, but they were going down to see if they could help save this young lady's life. And they all banded together. And that was really great to see. And it was a wild night, you know. And in Australia, I can imagine plenty of people, you know, there's someone needs help and, you know, but it's warm inside and it's raining outside and I'm sure someone else can help, but they all banded together. And these are people who are not necessarily even saved. So that was something that stuck with me, even though I didn't see it directly. And did we find out if that, she lived, okay, which is a blessing because we were praying hard for her. But it was a great trip. And we learned a lot about ourselves and about what missionaries do. And it's not glamorous. You know, we show you the fun things, you know, the waterfalls and the, oh, am I supposed to show something? Oh, yeah, I am. It's not all about the fun. Well, we went scuba diving. So it isn't about the fun. You know, we were able to have that, but, you know, Tim and I work hard and long, and you don't often see the fruit straight away because here it's a very apathetic culture spiritually, and people are pretty, they don't really care. Whereas over there, you've kind of got the opposite problem. Everyone's religious. You don't know whether they're genuinely saved. There's, you know, oh, I know Jesus, so therefore I must be saved. So that presents its own challenges. But it was a great trip. We did have the privilege of going scuba diving, and, you know, we were told the whole time you get out of your comfort zone, and we did, because slipping into those wetsuits was very difficult. And I actually had a bonus in my wetsuit. I had something that bit me and gave me a rash. So, you know, that was good. But, you know, we're thankful for the opportunity to go to that. And, you know, Tim's got great relationships with these people that you can just talk to, and an opportunity to see beautiful Vanuatu countryside. And so now Dad's going to come and tell us stuff.
All right, nice and quick, is it? So we did get a little bit of free time, so we did do a few things. We did some work on Tim's car, so we put a big, nice spotlight on the front of his car and a spotlight on the back of his car for him. Shane did most of the work on that one. Soccer is a big game over in Vanuatu, so everywhere you go, there's soccer. And being their Independence weekend, they were playing a lot of soccer games as celebration. When we were back at Camp Shining Light, after everyone else had gone to bed, we'd go over to Tim's house and sit there watching TV or DVDs and just talking or using our phones, since it was the only place we had internet. I got sick and was bedridden for a whole day, which I look pretty happy there actually, but it was quite terrible. But in my free time, that's all I did. Closer towards the end of the trip, we also went swimming in, they called it the Blue Lagoon, was it? Blue pool. And it was blue and very deep, even though that runs into the ocean there. But that water is actually from springs that would run underneath it and come out over there and over here. So that was nice, fresh water. Very fun to go swimming. These ones.
So this was the night we went out for dinner it was Ono's birthday, as you'd know, because we sent presents over while we were there. And this is one of the properties, that they own, and just the view from there. So this is Tim, he climbed up there. Yeah, that's just some of the time. So we went out for dinner that night, and that was nice. And then just a bit more of the things we did. It was really nice. The other great aspect of it was the time we were, what? Am I shining it? Sorry. There we go. Was the time we were able to spend together as a group, and just to be able to get to know each other better and see different levels. The men were all really good at looking out for us as sisters in Christ. That was really nice to see. And just to spend that fun time together, we had a lot of good laughs, made a lot of new in-jokes, and had some really good times. So yeah, those are just some of the things we got up to. There's the main street, and still got our coffee fix there. And yeah, we had lots of fun. So yeah, I think we're all really, really grateful that we were all made it there. And if one of us was sick or one of us was down for something, it's just like something was missing. We really just loved that time being together and getting to learn more about each other. And that was a blessing, really. It was really good.
So we're nearly finished here. Just one more slide. This is the most important slide of the lot. Pastor had it. This is on the plane trip on the way home. He was pretty tired, so he had a good sleep, as did some others as well. But we decided to put Pastor's photo in there because he was the most asleep. This is just at the airport, just a shot. Apparently that's the shot you take when you leave. So the rest of you that have been there probably have that same photo from that same spot. So that's just all of us just before we were about to hop on the plane to come back to Australia. That's our presentation. We won't go on any longer because we have taken our time. So hope you guys got to see what we were able to do over there while we were there, some of the experiences we had. And thank you guys for praying for us as well. We know you were praying. We could tell just the different things that were happening while we were there. There were challenges and different trials every day, and we could tell someone was praying. So thank you guys for praying while we were there. Oh, sorry. Oh, there is one more, which says, continue to pray for the work in Vanuatu and those who have made it their mission field, in particular Tim and Ono.
Keep praying.